In 1992, the most feared mob boss in America was taken down by a man in a wire. John Gotti, once called the Teflon Don, was betrayed not by bullets, but by his own right-hand man. In this video, we'll break down how John Gotti rose from street muscle to become the flashy face of the Gambino crime family, and how pride, betrayal, and an FBI mole brought the whole empire crashing down. You think you know the story, but there's a twist even Hollywood left out. If your closest friend could send you to prison for life, would you still call him brother? Comment below. Was Gotti's fault karma, loyalty gone wrong, or just the FBI playing chess? Let's dive into one of the most dramatic betrayals in Mafia history. He didn't look like your typical mobster, slick back hair, $1,000 suits, and paparazzi charm. But underneath that designer jacket, a street enforcer who clawed his way up from the gutters of East New York. John Gotti's journey started in the slums of Queens, where poverty was the family business and survival was an everyday hustle. Gotti learned early that respect wasn't given, it was taken. He joined street gangs young, ran errands for local hoods, and built his rep on fear and fast hands. The Mafia wasn't a dream, it was a destiny. From dirt-poor beginnings to Mafia royalty, that's not luck, that's war. Don't mistake charm for weakness. Gotti's rise was written in blood. By the early 70s, Gotti had earned his bones, literally. He helped whack a made man in a hit sanctioned by Paul Castellano, then boss of the Gambino family. That was the ultimate street resume. The reward. He got made in 1977, a full-fledged member of the most powerful crime family in America. Most guys stay low-key. Gotti? He doubled down. He ran hijacking crews at JFK Airport and stacked millions. His name rang out, not just in the streets, but in FBI offices. They nicknamed him the Dapper Don for his designer taste and public swagger. He dressed like Wall Street, but moved like a warlord. In a world of shadows, Gotti built a brand, and that brand had heat. December 16, 1985, Manhattan. Paul Castellano and his driver walk into Sparks Steakhouse. They never walk out. Seconds later, they're lying dead in the street, bullet holes in their suits, and chaos in the mob underworld. Who ordered the hit? Everyone knew, but no one said his name. That move was bold, reckless, and genius. Gotti didn't wait for permission. He took it. With Castellano gone, Gotti became boss. The Gambino family became his, and the Mafia entered its flashiest, most dangerous era. He didn't just kill a boss. He rewrote the rules. Real power isn't handed down. It's taken with bullets and nerve. As boss, Gotti wasn't just feared, he was famous. He smiled at the press, strutted through court, and walked free after trial. No conviction could stick. The media called him the Teflon Don. To the public, he was a villain with a movie star glow. To the mob, a man attracting too much attention. But behind the shine was a ticking time bomb. Every acquittal made the feds hungrier. Every headline made enemies inside his own crew more restless. The loyalty that built his empire was starting to crack. When you shine too bright, everyone wants to see you burn. Fame is fatal in a world built on silence. Gotti forgot that. Here's where the story flips. Gotti's underboss, Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano, had killed 19 men, but he feared prison more than hell. In 1991, facing a life sentence, Gravano did the unthinkable. He flipped on Gotti and took the stand. The Mafia's code of silence shattered. The courtroom gasped. Gotti never saw it coming. The wiretaps, the testimony, the betrayal, it was all there. The Teflon finally cracked. In '92, John Gotti was sentenced to life. No parole, no appeals, just a boss brought down by his own number two. He didn't die from bullets, he died from betrayal. Even kings fall when loyalty turns into survival. Locked away in Marion Federal Penitentiary, most men would have faded into the system. Not Gotti. Even behind bars, he tried to run the Gambino family with the same iron grip. He communicated through visitors, lawyers, and even coded letters. To his loyalists, he was still the boss. But power without presence? That's a losing game. Internal chaos brewed as rivals questioned Gotti's calls. Outside, a new generation was hungry. Inside, Gotti's influence began slipping. A kingdom can't breathe if its king never sees sunlight. He ran the family like a ghost, but ghosts don't leave for long. Power held too tightly eventually breaks from the inside out. With John Gotti locked up, his son John Gotti Jr. stepped up, or was pushed up, to keep the family name alive. But Jr. didn't inherit his father's charisma or respect. The crew didn't fear him. Prosecutors did. He faced multiple racketeering indictments, dodged a few, but eventually did time. The Gotti name became a burden, not a badge. The more Jr. tried to lead, the more the family fractured. Some say he was just a puppet. Others say he never wanted the throne. When your name opens doors but also builds cells, legacy becomes a curse. In the Mafia, bloodlines can't replace street-earned loyalty. After Gotti's downfall, the Gambino family, once the richest and most feared, began crumbling from within. Informants came in waves, trials kept coming, and the public spectacle that once protected Gotti now turned on his family like a spotlight in a trap. The feds had momentum. The mob had paranoia. Old school codes of silence, broken. Younger members chased money, not tradition. The Mafia wasn't dead, but it was dying loudly. A kingdom built on fear collapsed under whispers and wiretaps. No criminal empire survives when its secrets become news headlines. John Gotti loved the cameras, and they loved him back. Sharp suits, smirks outside court, and sound bites that made headlines. But that spotlight came with a price. The FBI built its case, not just with informants, but with footage, quotes, and swagger. Other bosses stayed hidden. Gotti posed for front pages. Every newspaper sold made him look untouchable, but every photo was a breadcrumb trail. He turned the courtroom into a stage and filmed his own fall. What made Gotti different wasn't just his style, it was his psychology. He didn't fear death. He feared disrespect. In a world where ego gets you killed, his ego ran the show. He punished disloyalty swiftly, made decisions based on honor codes, and expected absolute obedience. But that iron mindset left no room for negotiation, no strategy beyond dominance, no backup plan for betrayal. That's how empires fall, not from outside attacks, but from internal blindness. He ruled with ego, not caution, and ego has no brakes. Even lions get hunted when they roar too loud for too long. The fence didn't come at Gotti with force. They used finesse. Years of surveillance, hundreds of hours of wiretaps, informants placed like chess pieces. The FBI knew they couldn't outdone the Mafia, so they outweighed it. Every conversation, every trial, every not guilty verdict became part of the larger trap. When Gotti left in court, the FBI quietly tightened the noose. When he strutted in public, they documented it all. He wasn't fighting the war, he was starring in a case study. It wasn't one mistake. It was death by 1,000 microphones. In Howard Beach and Ozone Park, Gotti was more than a mob boss. He was a neighborhood protector. Paid for funerals. Kept the streets clean of non-sanctioned crime. Locals called him a gentleman. To them, the suits weren't vanity. They were armor. But outside those few blocks, Gotti was a menace, a symbol of everything wrong with organized crime. America's love-hate relationship with the mob had found its poster boy, and when the image cracked, the betrayal felt personal. Hero on one block, villain on the next. Sammy Gravano flipped, not just to save himself, but to destroy Gotti. He claimed Gotti was planning to pin murders on him. The loyalty between them? A myth? The bond? Already cracked. Gravano's testimony was ruthless, surgical, and deeply personal. The government gave him a deal, 5 years for 19 bodies in exchange for one king. Gravano walked free. Gotti never would again, the cost of betrayal. One man lost his freedom, the other lost his soul. Sometimes, the devil wears wiretaps and shakes your hand. In the underworld, survival beats loyalty, every time. After Gotti's imprisonment, the government turned its attention to the entire Gotti family. FBI surveillance intensified. Businesses were investigated. Relatives were tailed. The Gambinos were no longer just a criminal enterprise. They were a spectacle. Reality shows, interviews, books. Gotti's daughter Victoria even landed on TV. The name still brought fear, but now it also brought drama. The streets whispered. Prosecutors watched, and the media never looked away. The Gotti name once ruled the Mafia. Now it fueled tabloid TV. When your last name becomes your brand, your privacy is gone forever. John Gotti didn't die in a blaze of glory. He died in prison. Throat cancer, solitary confinement, no audience. The man who once commanded fear across 5 boroughs now sat in a cell, cut off from the world he once ruled. No more suits, no more cameras, just silence. In June 2002, the king was gone. No grand send-off, no Mafia salute, just another fallen boss in the system he mocked. His body failed him, but the real death started when the cameras stopped flashing. He lived loud. He died alone. Fame fades, power fades. Legacy? That depends on who tells the story. Cosa Nostra had one rule above all: omerta, the code of silence. Break it and you die. For decades, that rule kept families powerful and prosecutors powerless. But by the time Gotti fell, omerta had become optional. Sammy the Bull flipped. Dozens followed. The old ways crumbled under the weight of plea deals and life sentences. The Mafia wasn't undone by violence. It was undone by microphones, courtroom deals, and broken codes. Gotti was the last boss to truly believe in the code. The men after him? They believed in survival. When honor became negotiable, the Mafia became history. Every empire ends, not with war, but with betrayal from within. Movies glorify the Mafia, suits, cigars, honor. But John Gotti's story proves reality is messier. He did have loyalty, charisma, and swagger, but also paranoia, brutality, and ego. The life wasn't cinematic. It was filled with surveillance, betrayal, and paranoia. Hollywood gives you The Godfather. Gotti's world gave you wiretaps, rats, and isolation. No grand mansion, just a prison cell in Marion. No peaceful retirement, just cancer, silence, and shame. The life looked like gold, but it ended in rust. Don't let Hollywood sell you on a lifestyle that ends in chains. John Gotti's story isn't just a Mafia tale. It's a blueprint of how power corrupts, how loyalty bends, and how ego can outgrow strategy. He climbed faster than anyone, but the climb blinded him. He saw the spotlight as armor. It was a target. He saw betrayal as impossible. It was inevitable. What made Gotti unforgettable is also what made him fall. He refused to play by the new rules. And in the end, even kings pay the price when the game changes. Pride built his empire, but pride buried him too. Stay sharp. Stay humble. Because the game always changes, with or without you. From the streets of Queens to the federal prison walls of Illinois, John Gotti lived and died by the code of a world that no longer exists. His rise was ruthless, his fall legendary. But maybe his biggest mistake wasn't betrayal, violence, or ego. Maybe it was believing he could outsmart time itself. The Mafia changed, the rules changed, and the Don who once walked free while others fell eventually found that even Teflon melts under pressure. If you want more raw, untold stories of the Underworld's most infamous icons, make sure to subscribe to Underworld Icons and drop a comment with the name of the next kingpin you want exposed.